everybody, it's Elisa here. Welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about quasi-recovery. A few months ago I asked you on my Instagram where you are at your recovery journeys currently, and unfortunately many of you said that you are in quasi-recovery. So this is why I want to make this video today. And if you want to know more about recovery, how to start, what are the first steps to take, then please download my free guide and I will add the link in description. But let's get on with today's video. So what is the quasi-recovery? You are in quasi-recovery if you appear to be better physically, but mentally you know you are still in your eating disorder. Maybe you have gained weight so you don't look like you have an eating disorder anymore, and maybe you are also eating more, so for others it doesn't appear like you're restricting, but deep down you know that you're not improving either. You still struggle with the thoughts, you actually don't allow yourself to eat to full hunger, you still engage in some food rules, or you still keep eating your safe foods, you still engage in some restrictive behaviors like exercising out of guilt and compulsion, and you know that you still haven't fully let go of the control. And I want to be really clear, quasi-recovery is not a phase where you're still actively working letting go of those behaviors, because it's not realistic that you can quit all of those behaviors, have no hesitations, no struggles from day one. It's normal for this to be a little gradual process, and this is not necessarily quasi-recovery. But I think quasi-recovery is more about staying stuck with those behaviors for a longer period of time, and maybe not even actively working to get rid of those behaviors and not working to improve your mindset. So quasi-recovery is more about staying stuck for a longer period where you don't see any improvement or much progress. And I'm saying all of this so you understand that recovery is not about perfection either. It's normal that it will take some time to get rid of all of those behaviors and mindsets, but this doesn't necessarily mean that you are now in quasi-recovery. So be very kind to yourself. You are going through so much, you have to change so much, and it will take time to apply all of those steps, but also to be really honest with yourself. If you have been stuck in one place for too long and you find yourself not even actively working towards recovery and you are not seeing any improvements or progress, then this may indicate that you are stuck in quasi-recovery. And then yes, this may need some intervention, otherwise full recovery is not possible. So why do people stay stuck in quasi-recovery? There are definitely so many reasons for that, and you can always identify your reasons as it can help you to work through it. But here are some common ones why people tend to get stuck. Firstly, fear of weight gain, fear of overshooting, fear of not accepting your natural weight. Also body image issues, believing that you are not good enough or worthy unless you're thin, or unless you fit under the society's standards of beauty or how health should look like. Next big fear is fear of losing control, because eating disorders are also classified as anxiety disorders, and this means letting go of those behaviors can trigger more anxiety, feeling like you are losing control, feeling overwhelmed with the emotions and sensations that will come up once you stop restricting. So this is why people get stuck. They fear losing control. The next fear can be becoming unhealthy. As I came from orthorexia and having health issues previously, my eating disorder was so much tied around the fear of, if I allow myself to eat unhealthy foods, I will become unhealthy. I was so afraid of what will happen if I allow myself to eat everything, because I genuinely thought that my binging and food cravings will just get worse, not better. But actually, of course, the opposite is true. And I have talked about this in many of my other videos, and I can link some example ones in the description. And the next big fear is fear of losing your identity. For example, I was so involved with the raw food community and eating healthy, and I felt like a lot of people knew me from that side of things. And in my recovery, I did go through a kind of like identity crisis where I had to leave all of that in the past and discover a completely new life for myself. And I have heard similar things from others as well. Maybe before they were so into this like health and fitness, maybe they were even personal trainers or maybe health coaches. All of their friends were into fitness and health. Maybe their work was in this like health niche, and in recovery they may feel that they will need to change all of that because their eating disorder thrived in that environment. and now they kind of have to reinvent themselves. So this can definitely be a big change to somebody's life, depending on how many aspects of their life were affected by the disorder. And these are just some examples, but in general, most often it's about fearing something or losing control over something. And when it comes to humans, then fear is a pretty strong motivator. Our body is wired to try to keep us safe. So if anything appears as a threat or is causing us fear, anxiety, then of course we try to avoid it at all costs. So if we look at all the possible fear-based reasons of why people stay stuck in quasi-recovery, then it starts to make sense. But how to break free from this state of quasi-recovery and keep moving forward in your recovery journeys? I want to share what really worked for me to keep going no matter what fears or worries came up. And also what has worked for my clients to help them keep going and not stay stuck in quasi-recovery. Firstly, identify why recovery is non-negotiable. For example, for me, I couldn't imagine that 30 years from now, I would realize that I knew how to recover, but I didn't do anything. And I stayed stuck for all those years. I didn't want to look back in my life and have this regret that I chose to hold myself back and keep living with the eating disorder. Even though eating disorders are nobody's fault and they can be so sneaky how they develop. So definitely having an eating disorder is not a choice. But at the same time, recovery is a choice. It's up to you whether you choose to recover or not. Yes, it's so hard and it requires so much commitment and taking the necessary steps, but it's still a choice you can make whether to recover or not. So for me, I realized it's up to me to either continue to live my life with an eating disorder or decide to do whatever it takes and to fully recover. As I came from bulimia and feeling so out of control with the binges, so exhausted by the constant food obsession, the never-ending binge and purge cycles, keeping up with the restriction, dieting, rules, what to eat or not to eat. I wanted all of this to end and just be able to eat normally, just as I saw many other people do close to me or people who had fully recovered before me. I wanted that freedom so badly, and this was a big motivator for me, and I was willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Yes, recovery seems so scary, but staying in an eating disorder for the rest of my life seemed even scarier for me. So this is how I was able to make recovery non-negotiable for me. I could not recover. I simply had to recover. There was no other option in my mind. But first, as you can see, I had this big why and big reason why I had to recover, why it was important to me, why it was my top priority. And then taking the pro-recovery actions on a daily basis seemed like an only option. There was no other way in my mind. And secondly, start to question, challenge, and reframe all of your fears. As we talked about earlier, humans are so motivated by their fears, and your fears keep you stuck in quasi-recovery. So it's important to work through your fears to get unstuck, because if you keep on believing wholeheartedly that all of your fears are true and somehow beneficial for you to follow, you will just keep following your fears instead of facing them head on. For example, let's take one common fear we identified earlier, the fear of weight gain. So start to question, challenge, and reframe this fear. Maybe the fear is saying, if I gain weight, everybody will judge me. And you can ask yourself, well, is this really true and is this helpful? Yes, some people will judge you because this is unfortunately the society we live in. The society that is brainwashed by diets and the society that is idealizing thinness. But at the same time, is it really worth you staying in an eating disorder for the rest of your life just so some random person cannot possibly judge you for 1 second? And then they will move on with their day and keep thinking about themselves while you spend your entire day and then the rest of your life in an eating disorder so that one person couldn't judge you. Because in reality, nobody continues to think about you for their whole day, let alone their whole lives. People think more about themselves and their own problems than spend time worrying about you. And also also people who are closest to you, people who matter the most, will still love you no matter what, no matter the body changes. You have been through an eating disorder. You are not a bad person for gaining weight, and you deserve to be loved no matter your body size. And if somebody has a problem with it, then it's their problem, not yours. So maybe instead of thinking, if I gain weight, everybody will judge me, you may reframe it to something more helpful, like maybe some people who are brainwashed by diets will judge me. They don't know my whole story, and they also probably judge themselves even more harshly. But people who truly love me will continue to love me despite the body changes. And I am more than a body. And notice how this can also be true. Yes, but this thought is way more helpful rather than keep thinking, what if people judge me? And focusing on something you cannot control. Let them judge if they want. Nobody who is truly happy will go around and criticize others. So it's more about them than about you. And they are not worth you spending your entire life in an eating disorder. So this is just an example how you can start to question and challenge your fears and then reframe it to something more helpful. Because most often the situation itself doesn't need to change in order for you to get unstuck. For example, you don't need others to stop judging you so you can recover, because this is not realistic. But what needs to change is how you view the situation. It's possible to see the same situation in a new but much more helpful and positive way. For example, realizing that if other people judge you, it's their problem, not yours. And people who love you will continue to love you despite the body changes. So can you see how the change needs to happen in your mindset? And this will help you get unstuck. And this is also the type of work I do with my one-on-one clients with the recovery coaching. We talk a lot about the mindset and also do practical exercises of how to get unstuck and keep moving forward in your recovery journey. Because as a coach, this is the type of thing I see that keeps people stuck the most. Because if in recovery you also work on your mindset and change your mindset, it will help you to fully recover, but it will also help you to sustain your full recovery for life. So if you feel you need some personal guidance for your recovery, I'm more than happy to help you, and I will add the link in description where you can read more about the coaching. And thirdly, understand how recovery works. Everything I actually wrote in my book, what helped me to get unstuck from my eating disorder and actually to want full recovery. Even before I started my full recovery, I was already searching the answers for years, but I couldn't commit to full recovery because I couldn't understand how a person can possibly eat when hungry and stop when full naturally. Like, how is that even possible? I had beliefs that I need to control what or how much I eat, because otherwise I would just continue to binge into oblivion. Secondly, I didn't know how our body is even able to regulate its weight by itself without me needing to control anything. I didn't know how my metabolism or how my hormones will start to work normally once I recover, and how they will actually start defending my set point. I didn't know that my body actually wants to be at a stable weight. My body doesn't want to have big weight fluctuation if I can provide the best conditions for my body. I also didn't know that I don't need to eat clean and healthy for the rest of my life in order to be healthy. Before, I had acne and digestion issues, so I thought that in order to manage those symptoms, I need to restrict what I eat for forever. I also thought that if I will let go of restriction, I would just keep on binging on junk foods, because that had been my experience in the past. So in the past, why I was stuck for so many years was because I didn't understand how recovery works and how my body is actually able to heal and restore itself without me needing to control anything. And this is why in my book I wrote about everything that helped me to keep recovering and keep trusting my body along this process, because knowledge is power, and if you know how recovery works physically and mentally, it can be a very powerful tool to get unstuck. So how to go all in to fully recover. So now we have talked about how mentally move past the hesitations and fears and how to get unstuck. I also want to talk about what actions you can take to get unstuck from quasi-recovery and keep moving forward to full recovery. And the answer is to go all in. And this is what it means. Start eating enough. You can learn about the calorie guidelines for eating disorder recovery so you know what to aim for, but know that these are only minimums, not maximums. And in reality, what's gonna take you to full recovery is eating to your full hunger, whether physical hunger or mental hunger, and also following your extreme hunger, trusting your body to guide you how much to eat. Next, you have to stop all restrictions and compensations. Stop dieting, stop following any calorie limits, stop trying to eat less or only eat low calorie foods, and also stop exercising and give your body rest. Stop any other compensation behaviors like vomiting, using laxatives and diuretics. And thirdly, challenge your fear foods and food rules. Identify and challenge all of your fear foods. For example, if your fear food is pizza, you should go and eat pizza. Or if your food rule is not eating anything past 6 p.m., you should continue eating past 6 p.m. So break all of those eating disorder fear foods and food rules. And you do it by facing your fears and doing the opposite action. This will rewire your brain, and it's an essential part of recovery. And I know it's hard, it's challenging, but over time it will get easier the more you do it, I promise. And lastly, also work on your mental recovery. Going all in with the food and stopping all restrictions and eating enough and resting is necessary. But I believe also working on your mental recovery is what will help you to stick with it until the end, until you fully recover. You have to work on your physical recovery and mental recovery at the same time. Do not neglect one or the other. They work together. Your actions need to align with your mindset. Otherwise, if your action is to eat, but mentally you continue to judge yourself, letting your eating disorder make you feel guilty for it, it's like having a gas and brakes on at the same time. You won't get very far like this. So working on the mental side is super important. I mean, rewiring your thoughts, working on self-compassion, changing your self-talk, changing your beliefs, working on your body image, and overcoming the diet culture brainwash. Because all of this is often why we diet and restrict in the first place. This is the type of stuff fuels the restriction and fuels those restrictive behaviors. So working on the mental recovery is super important. And on my YouTube channel, you can find a whole playlist of videos about mental recovery, and I will link it in the description. So this was the video today. I really hope it was helpful. And as I mentioned already, if you feel overwhelmed with recovery and you need some guidance and maybe some hand holding, you need support, I am here for you, and you can always apply for my recovery coaching. And on my website, I have tons of testimonials from previous happy clients and how the recovery coaching was able to transform their lives and how they were able to get unstuck and to fully recover. So if you feel you need some help, I'm here for you. And also please like this video if you find it helpful, and also subscribe to my channel so you will see whenever I post new videos. And thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you next time. Bye.